We live in a culture that doesn't take mental health issues seriously. There's a lot of stigma. Some people tell you to just suck it up or get it together or to stop worrying or that it's all in your head. But I'm here to tell you that anxiety disorders, they're as real as diabetes.
I didn't even want to go to sleep. The nightmares were so bad.
That image kept coming back to me. I didn't want to remember it, but there it was.
I felt like I was right back there in the middle of that horrible day. The smells, the sounds, it was so real.
I tried to go grocery shopping, but I couldn't be around all those people without seeing the exit.
These are the voices of post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. Almost everyone lives through something traumatic at some point in life. Most people have a lot of distress right after a trauma happens, but begin to feel better over time. For other people, the distress sticks around, and they begin to have symptoms that really affect their lives. For these people, it is almost as if the trauma is still happening, all the time, everywhere, long after it has passed. I know, one of these voices is mine. What do we mean by trauma? When we're talking about PTSD, a trauma is a horrible experience where you might have felt afraid for your life, or you were injured physically or sexually, or were afraid you would be. You can also witness a trauma or hear about it happening to someone you care about. First responders, medical people, and clergy can also experience trauma by hearing others talk about it. For me, it was combat. I saw some really horrible things, and I often thought I might be killed. PTSD develops in some people and not in others. Everyone experiences horrible things differently, and everyone reacts differently, sometimes for years or decades after the event. If you experience post-traumatic stress, it does not mean you're weak or that you can't handle hard things. It may make you feel weak or unsafe, but a lot of strong, brave people are affected by PTSD. And it is treatable. Your provider might think about a diagnosis of PTSD if you've lived through something awful and if you have some specific symptoms for more than 1 month. Intrusion or re-experiencing symptoms. This is the memory of the trauma coming back. It can show up as unwanted memories, nightmares, flashbacks, or feeling horrible after being reminded of it. For me, I kept seeing this one image of a Marine who had just died, and that memory haunted me. Avoidance symptoms. People go out of their way to avoid anything that reminds them of what happened. Some people avoid things like thinking about the trauma. Others avoid people or places or anything else that makes them remember. I couldn't deal with crowded restaurants or movie theaters. I felt unsafe there, so I stayed away, and it affected my family life a lot. Negative changes in thoughts or feelings. This can seem like depression or thinking I'm not safe. I felt sad and didn't feel interested in the activities I used to love. I isolated myself. Other people feel self-blame or might not remember the event well. Some people feel numb or disconnected. Changes in reactivity or arousal. This means your body reacts to things much more than it used to. You feel irritable. You might take risks or act self-destructive. A lot of times you have trouble concentrating and you're always on guard. I was jumpy and loud noises really startled me for a while. I also couldn't sleep for months after coming home and had to take medication. PTSD makes people feel horrible, but I found a way to ask for help. I learned there are several treatments proven to work for combat veterans like me, as well as for survivors of all other types of trauma. These therapies have names like CPT, PE, and EMDR, and they help people get through the trauma by learning to change how they think and feel about it. I was able to get back to living. PTSD is challenging, but there is hope. Talk to your doctor and get some help because treatment works. People can learn to live again. I know. I did.
Hi again, it's Dr. Jen, and I've noticed something with my patients. They often describe to me some classic symptoms of an anxiety disorder: constant worry, trouble sleeping, tense muscles, and struggle with concentrating. But they aren't getting treatment. There's a lot of issues with mental health care in this country. Some people don't have insurance that would cover it. Some have been dismissed or minimized in the past and don't think seeking help will do any good. Some worry about the stigma and whether it could affect future jobs or relationships. But severe anxiety isn't a moral or personal failing. It's a health problem, just like strep throat or diabetes. It needs to be treated with the same kind of seriousness.
As you approach the podium, your heart rate jumps, your mind blanks, and your chest tightens. You start to feel as if at any minute, you could die. Occasional anxiety is an expected part of life. For a person with an anxiety disorder, the anxiety does not go away. Anxiety disorders can get worse over time. Symptoms of anxiety disorders include restlessness, fatigue, irritability, trouble concentrating, and difficulty sleeping. About 1/3 of US adults experience an anxiety disorder at some time in their lives. Finding ways to relax can help. So can talking about it. Connecting with family and friends can help you cope. If your symptoms don't go away, talk with a healthcare provider. While living with an anxiety disorder isn't always easy, there is hope. With treatment, different types of talk therapy, and possibly medication, you can take back your life.
Studies have shown that people with anxiety disorders don't just have a different way of reacting to stress. There may be actual differences in how their brain is working. One model describes possible mix-ups in the connections between the amygdala and other parts of the brain. The pathways that signal anxiety become stronger, and the more anxiety you have, the stronger the pathways become, and it becomes a vicious cycle. The good news is that there's treatment for anxiety and that you don't have to suffer. Remember, this isn't about weakness, it's about changing brain patterns. And research shows that our brains have the ability to reorganize and form new connections all throughout our lives.